Okay, we're recording. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see you here. And I thought we would start today. Maybe it's a little cliche, but I think it would be really nice if we would just take a moment before we do too much talking, before I do too much talking. Just to be here and notice whatever happens. And just see that it's possible to notice whatever happens without having to do anything about it or get anywhere or get anything. You're welcome to have your eyes open or your eyes closed, one eye open and the other eye closed, or you can alternate winking. So we can notice what it is that we think we're looking for. What we think we need. What we think is the problem. What we think might solve the problem. Or if there's a sense of hopelessness that nothing will solve the problem. And we can then just notice what is holding all of that, allowing all of that. That's always here. And we can also notice the tendency to try to make that a thing that we can latch onto or reproduce, that we imagine will give us some kind of future safety or security. We can just figure it out and get it right. Then the hope might be my neighbor coming in. charging his battery. But the hope might be that that's going to give us something, and then we're stuck in this, seemingly stuck in this game of I have it, I don't have it, I got it, I lost it, I'm there, I'm not there, this is working, this is not working, I understand it, I don't understand it. What I'm suggesting, though, is that we can notice that there's something, and that's a word, so don't get hung up on is it something or not something. There's something that is consistent. Regardless of whether we have it or don't have it, understand it or don't understand it, get it or lose it. And this is what I'm interested in as a foundation. And then we can see what's next. We can see what happens, and we can take our hands off the reins and begin to trust. And trust is not about, you know, the misunderstanding, or at least my misunderstanding of trust in the past, or sometimes still, is that trust is something that comes from some kind of knowing or possession or control or absolute confidence. But my experience of the trust that I'm talking about is just a recognition of the actuality of what is. Sometimes people talk about loving what is. Same kind of thing. You can trust what is, or you can love what is. But if we turn to the old idea of what that is supposed to be, or what we think that's supposed to be, or what we think that's supposed to feel like or look like, and if that doesn't match up with what's presently happening, then what? Then we're back to seeking again. Got it, I lost it, I understand it, I don't understand it. But the deeper truth, and it's not even all that deep, it's actually pretty obvious. So you don't have to go looking for it. You can just notice that actually right now you're here. Regardless of your opinions about it, regardless of whether you feel the feelings that you think are the feelings called trust or security or love or faith or goodness or whatever. The actual truth is that you're here now. And whatever has happened, or that you have believed has happened, or seems to have happened, or whatever you think might happen or might be happening, any opinions or ideas about any of it, kind of irrelevant. Because right now, You're here. And this doesn't depend on any kind of understanding. Doesn't depend on any identity either. You don't have to know who you are, what you are, where you are, when you are, why you are. None of that is necessary in order simply to recognize that you are. So one thing that I wanted to share today before we will open it up for sharing and questions is about that trust. Because as I say, we are here, regardless of our opinions. So each of us could go through a list of all of the things that went wrong, all of our traumas, all of the bad things, all of the unfair things, all the things we screwed up, all the things wrong with us, a long list of all these things. We could spend the rest of our lives just listing out all the things that are wrong and bad and impossible and so forth. But we can notice, as I've said, that we are here. And in a sense, we could recognize that the miracle is that we're here regardless of any of that stuff. We've all experienced many, many, many challenging things. We've all had moments, maybe many moments, in which we didn't know how we could go on, in which we've experienced despair, hopelessness, aloneness, feeling like we've been abandoned, that we're alone, that there's no hope whatsoever. And yet life is demonstrating to us over and over and over and over and over that does not depend upon hope. You can have all the hope you want or all the hopelessness you want. And it doesn't alter this obviousness that right now, here we are. So then what I've noticed in my own experience and then in sharing with others and talking with others and hearing their stories and their experiences, there seems to be this common pattern in which we are judging our success or failure or how well things are working or whether we've got it or lost it or whether we should have hope or hopelessness. We're just constantly seeming to be evaluating our status based upon our interpretations and the meanings that we give to our present experience. So we can notice that what's happening right now, there's sensation, feeling, emotion, thought, memory, energy. So this is not some sort of esoteric thing. I mean, we can just notice, it's pretty obvious. That's just what's happening in our direct experience. All of us experience sensation. All of us experience emotion. All of us experience feeling. All of us experience thought. All of this is happening. And then we're judging, evaluating. What does this mean? Is it good? Is it bad? Have I got it? Have I lost it? Am I getting there? Am I not getting there? And what I've noticed, and what I'd like to suggest that you could also inquire to see if this is true in your experience, is that all of that evaluation, all of the judgment is based upon this conceptual overlay, which is created by or defined by all of our conditioning. So all of this conditioning from the past that we can list out, that we tend to emphasize, all of the things that went wrong, didn't work, went badly, were shameful, humiliating. So we're judging our present status and our present experience based upon this conditioning that is, at the very least, it's not the most resourceful conditioning, because there are tremendous resources available, resources of courage, strength, patience, humility. We all have access to this. Silence. But the conditioning is not resourceful. The conditioning is divisive, isolating, separating. I mean, by its very nature, it is separating. And so at the very least, we've instantaneously, when we filter things through this conditioned conceptual layer, we instantly, at the very least, cut off 50% of resources. Because suddenly there's black and white, yes and no, this and that, here and there, me and you. And that's probably, I mean, 50% is probably way off. I mean, we're probably actually talking about instantly just cutting off 99.9% of resources, more like. Because we instantly, when we filter things through that conceptual layer of me and you, or more like me and everything else, then who am I in that equation? Through that conceptual filter, I'm this thing here, and everything else is this vast, virtually infinite, potentially and most likely hostile universe, or at best indifferent. So we've eliminated our resourcefulness. But there's another possibility, which is what I'm talking about when I talk about trust. And some of you who, particularly if you are participating in the somatic training, then you have heard me talk about positive expectation. So there's no room for positive expectation in that if we are filtering everything through the conceptual layer, which is conditioned, which eliminates 99.9% of resourcefulness, which separates or imagines the separation, then we can't, where is the positive expectation in that? All we could do is just try to overlay yet another concept of what we think positive expectation is. And then we just fall into the trap of, oh, well, it's more hope, actually. Then it's just, okay, well, I'll affirm my oneness. I'll affirm I am one with God. I am one with God. I am one with God. God is love. God is love. God is love. Now that's maybe better than sitting around and just over and over and over thinking to yourself, it's a hostile universe. I'm all alone. There's no hope. But in a sense, it's actually kind of the same thing. Because if God is love, God is love, God is love is coming from this overlay on top of an overlay, which wrongly imagines separation, wrongly imagines that I am this thing here that exists in this vast, virtually infinite, hostile or indifferent universe, then God is love is really actually, if we tell the truth, it's just affirming our separation. God is out there, and God is love is really more like, please let God be love, and please let God be listening, and please let God shine God's light on me so that maybe someday in the future, possibly soon, all of this nightmare that I'm apparently living can go away. And then I'll know peace, and then I'll know okayness, and then I'll know real love. And what I'm suggesting is that that just maintains the same thing, maintains the same suffering. And, not everybody perceives their life to be an endless nightmare. So I'm not trying to say that everybody has that experience, but I think everybody can relate to that underneath it all, there's a sense of confusion, of not knowing what love is, of not knowing what wholeness is, and feeling cut off. And then we're stuck in this paradigm of hope and hopelessness. But I'm saying that I think that, and it's my experience, that trust is a choice. And that when we learn how to choose trust, then we are choosing to recognize what is. And this connects us to the power of all life, connects us instantaneously to wholeness. Not that we were ever cut off, but we can directly recognize that connection. So right now, what I would invite you to is to notice that if your attention is with anything, any object, any thought, any concept about your experience, that rather than trying to get rid of that or fix that or do the right technique or do whatever it is that you think you're supposed to do in order to get to that state that's called in your mind peace or okayness or oneness, that what we could do instead, and I'll play along with you, I'll do this together with you right now, is we could choose to not make any effort just for a moment. Notice how much energy is going to the indulgence of the compulsion to do something, figure it out, get somewhere, fix something, know something, understand something, do something. And just for a moment, don't do anything. Not as a restraint, but just to settle into yourself just as you are, in your innocence, like a child who doesn't know shame. So I'm not proposing that you need to get rid of shame, but just like a child who doesn't know shame, who is so innocent that the child doesn't typically fall into that trap until they do, of either hiding out of shame, oh no, don't let them know, don't let them see, or this outward indulgence of I'm me and you're not going to get in my way and I'm not going to listen to you and I'm not going to care what you think. But there's a tender option of just innocently being yourself, which you are. And there's something really attractive about this. It's scary sometimes, but deeper than that, it's attractive because it offers rest. Instead of having to figure out who you are or be the right you or fix yourself or protect yourself, you can just be yourself. And being yourself doesn't require that you know in your mind, have an image of what that is. You don't have to be able to predict what your next thought or action will be and try to keep that congruent with your idea of who you are. That's why I'm saying to notice the innocence that is free to be whatever it is that's here now. Whatever these sensations are, whatever these feelings are. And then we can start to understand this positive expectation. It's innocent. It's not something we have to layer on top. We don't have to find the positive expectation. It's actually innate within us. It's wonder. It's to live in wonder. And we might notice that that wonder is actually at the heart of all of this, all of the seeking. The wonder gets distorted into seeking when we're looking for a conclusion. Then wonder becomes seeking, and that's suffering, because then rather than just being honest about it, which is that it's wonder is open. Wonder doesn't know. What the nature of wonder is not knowing, but the seeking is looking to it twist twist the wonder into looking for a conclusion, an end. And so, in my view, so much of spirituality, or so-called spirituality, has become distorted. And it's not about open wonder, awe, aliveness. It becomes the pursuit of death. Just want a conclusion. So what do we want a conclusion to? The only reason we'd want a conclusion is because it's a nightmare. So it becomes a vicious cycle I'm seeking, therefore, this must be a nightmare. Therefore, I must seek. Therefore, this must be a nightmare. Therefore, I must seek. It's just a vicious cycle, round and round. So I'm not the Buddha. I can't speak for the Buddha, but I can offer my commentary based on my experience. So I think also keep in mind that these things come to us through translations. So I'm sure that the original may not be exactly how it gets translated, but it's often translated. I think it's the first noble truth is that life is suffering, or that seeking is suffering, desire is suffering. And in many ways, we have come to believe that that's true, that desire is suffering, because maybe we've had experience of that. We had desire, and then it became suffering. And so then we make the desire wrong. All desire is wrong. But then we have desire. So then we're wrong. Bad me. Shame on me. Have all that horrible desire. Got to get rid of it. Need a conclusion because of all that desire. But if you notice, this subtly makes, or even not so subtly, it just, again, twists all of this into this right now is not it. This right now is wrong. This right now is the bad thing. And we need to get to the future thing, which will be better. So we're not resting here. And then we wonder, well, if we're paying attention, at least we'd wonder, well, when am I going to get there? When's that going to happen? Because all my life has become this rehearsal of seeking, of not resting. And then I become desperate for rest. So instead of seeking for rest, what I'm suggesting is let's notice the rest that's available now. And notice that this rest is not dependent upon circumstances of our lives. That there might be a lot of activity. That activity might appear to be external, sounds, other people, energy, conditions. It might seem to be internal, our own feeling states, thoughts, emotions. But regardless of the activity, we can notice that this rest is available. And there's this interesting phenomenon that seems to be true. Seems to be. I mean, we'll check it out together and you can tell me if it's true. But we seem to be able to entrain to it. And if we set aside all of our ideas about here and there, you and me, this and that, just for a moment, and we just notice what's actually happening, we might notice right now that we're more entrained to that. More entrained to that than we were 15 minutes ago. Just noticing that underneath all of it and through all of it and in all of it, regardless of our conditioned opinions about it, that this unified wholeness is here and that we can just tune into that. And the more we tune into it, the easier it is to recognize, the easier it becomes to tune into it. And then the more we are able to recognize it and tune into it, the more we're able to choose that trust and to live from that trust, to allow that trust to be like the vehicle through which our lives express. So then we can really just start to let go of all of the conditioned reactivity. And when I say let go of, I don't mean get rid of. I mean just stop latching onto it and trying to use those tools, which have proven to be ineffective and hurtful and to produce suffering in our lives. And then through tuning into this whatever we want to call it, doesn't matter what we call it, just that we are this moment now, unconditioned, then we can start to notice that it that the core, the seed of our desire is not bad at all. The core of our desire is not something that leads to suffering in and of itself. The core of our desire actually is to express the qualities that we value, the attributes of ourself. Because I don't know anybody who, in their heart of hearts, in an intimate conversation, tells me, you know what I most deeply desire? Violence, hatred, war, cruelty, arrogance, isolation, separation. Nobody tells me that. And it's certainly not my experience, because my experience and what everybody else tells me and what everybody's face reveals and what everybody's life reveals, with very few exceptions, and even those, I can't say that they're real exceptions. I just don't know the people very well. But what actually seems to be true is that our true core desires are for love, connection, peace, humility. So then why is it that we act in all of these ways that run counter to that? And what I'm proposing, and by the way, I'm not above that. I mean, I am pretty reactive. But what I've noticed, and maybe because I've been so reactive for so much of my life, it's a gift because it reveals the pain of that, the pain of living as if that reactivity was the truth. And that my desires are bad, that desire equals suffering. It has revealed that that's not actually true in my experience. What it's revealed is in prayer, in moments of what have seemed to be the darkest moments, in those moments of prayer, of I don't know, my way hasn't worked, then this vulnerability and humility reveals itself, and it gives this gift of recognition of the core of the desire, whatever it is. In the moment of reactivity, that my wife says something to me and I'm feel all upset about it and want to lash out. It's her fault. How dare she? So it appears then on the surface that that's this horrible thing. And then I have to fix it and get rid of it and do something and work on myself and I'm bad. But just tuning into this, which is allowing it all, which is the essence of my life, reveals that the core of that desire is actually love and connection. So then I can trust that. And when I trust that, then that can shine forth and it can express. And it's so innocent. I have young children, and their innocence is so at times challenging for my conditioning, and so beautiful and revealing, because they can be acting in ways that seem so horrible, hitting one another, breaking things, but on a in just a flash that can reveal itself through tears. It's like they just break open, and their innocence, it reveals it's really just love. It's really just this desire for connection. So in many ways, I guess my children have been my greatest teachers. Just requires paying attention and a willingness to be vulnerable and to soften. And we've been hurt. And again, we've got a long list we could go through, could take the rest of our lifetimes and just write out all the things that are bad and wrong about us and about everyone else, and why it's not safe and we can't trust and we can't be vulnerable because we'll be hurt, because people will take advantage of us. It's not safe. It won't work out. I'm not trustworthy. Life isn't trustworthy. But I'm proposing that we can actually just start to make a choice. It's the choice that I make in my life. And it's really, really simple. What do I actually want? And then live from that. So when I notice that reactivity rising up, then that moment of what am I going to do? And there's these habits, these grooves that have been worn, these pathways. And so then we can tend to fallen into the trap of thinking, well, it's one or the other. Which one am I going to do? They're both bad. Either I'm going to lash out or I'm going to internalize it, suppress it. But we don't want either of those. So rather than playing separate and playing victim, my experience consistently is that in this moment right now, regardless of whatever else might be happening, no matter how intense the experience might be, no matter how long standing seemingly it has been, in this instant right now, I have choice. And when I choose to rest and then to live from this trust that my true desire is good, my true desire is good, then I can be vulnerable and soft because I can experience the outflowing of that. And it proves itself time and time again to be better. And I know better is maybe a bad word, but it's just also honest. It's better. We know that. We know that violence, hatred, whether it's directed outward or inward, either way, is not good. It's not what we want. So we can choose. I want my true desire. And where is that to be found? Where is that found? It's found here, now, in this unguarded wonder. In which all of the armor and the identity that I think I have to maintain. You ever had that experience of you're upset and then you get to a point where you realize you kind of have to be holding on to that upset because maybe you kind of want to laugh or smile or connect, but no, I'm upset. But that's actually happening all the time. That's what I'm saying, is that the pain of the pain and the suffering and the nightmare that we imagine is actually that it's revealing to us this moment, this present moment of choice, that there is another way. And all we have to do is just soften. And then it's all your fault, you're to blame, how dare you, can reveal this tenderness and this true desire, and then that can flow, and that's so wonderful. And then we actually we experience, we manifest in our lives what it is that we want. And it doesn't, when we live from this wonder, we can trust in, doesn't have to look the way we think it's supposed to look. It doesn't have to feel the way we think it's supposed to feel. But it reveals consistently, when we are open to it, that it's better than what we thought. We just have to be willing not to latch on to these ideas and conclusions about how things are supposed to be and what this means, because then what happens is there's, like, life is transition. It's always transition. There's no moment of arrival. It's all transition. So then why judge? And how can we judge what's happening? What is the basis of that? It's all transition. It's all unknown. We don't know. We're just, when we think we know, when we latch onto the label, I know what this is good, this is bad, I like it, I don't like it, it's better, it's worse, it's going well, it's going poorly, I'm succeeding, I'm failing. We're lying, because the actual truth is we don't know. I don't know what this is. There's sensation happening, feeling happening, emotion happening, thought happening, memory happening, imagery happening. That's more truthful. Talked a lot more than I thought I would. So I would like to open it to your questions and sharing in 1 second, just a couple brief things before I do, because I usually forget to say these things. Housekeeping things. One is that for anybody who has not done so, I would encourage you to consider joining the workshop series that I'm offering. I'm offering it presently live. There are 2 more Saturdays that will be live if you join now or before Saturday. And if you're watching this after the fact, then the recordings will be available. And that is a workshop series that I'm calling Metaphysics, Magic, and Healing. And that's, you can learn more about that at joeylott.com/magic. It is pay what you can. I don't want money to be an obstacle. I also have to, I don't have to, but I choose to value my time. So I always appreciate your financial contributions. And so it's pay what you can. And if you don't feel that you can pay anything, then that's also an option. So you can, again, learn more about that at joeylott.com/magic. And also, if anybody wants to make a financial contribution because you value these videos or anything else that I offer, I always am very appreciative of that. You can do that at joeylott.com/give. If obviously, as we're doing this now, it's live, but for anybody who's watching this, the recording of this later on YouTube or anywhere else, if you're interested in participating in this public meeting series live, you can register to do that. There's no charge to do so, and that's at joeylott.com/now. You'll find information there, as well as other events and offerings. And I think that's it for now. Probably forgetting some other things, but I like to mention those just because I want to make sure that people have a way that they can connect and get involved, and also receive the value of whatever it is that I can offer to you. And so those are the ways that I can think of now. So now I'd like to, oh, and one more thing is that we are recording this, and it will be going up on YouTube afterward. So if you choose to speak, then your audio and video, if you have video turned on, will be in the recording. So you're giving your implicit consent to include that in the recording that will be up on YouTube. So now, if you would like to share or ask a question or anything else, then floor is open, and you can just unmute yourself and speak. Because we rarely have a problem with too many people speaking at once. So feel free to unmute and speak.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. If no one's there.
Hi.
Can I go or?
Yep, I hear you.
So just wanted to update that for the first time I feel pretty depressed. Like I was only depressed while I was on meds, like a year ago. But yeah, I just don't know. Like I'm not on meds right now, but I feel pretty low most of the times. I lost motivation most of the things, and I don't know if it's isolation because of isolation or um, there's no real. I don't know. I just don't know the right reason.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a crush on this girl and she's not responding. And I don't know. That might be. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's been it's been pretty low, and I've tried. You said self-imposed loneliness. I tried contacting, and yeah, it kind of worked. I gone out with people, but still, there's still loneliness in my life most of the time. It's like it seems like there's no solution to it right now.
Yeah.
Like even if I try, like I try hard, so hard, it's like it's even draining to do so as well.
Mm-hmm.
Socializing to escape this, or like most of the time, it's this loneliness, and on the top of that, I feel pretty sad and depressed and left out in this country. I got no one here, so everything is just escalating. It's just adding up. Um, but I still feel okay. I don't know. The same tools that I use for obsessive thinking, I try to not fight that sense of isolation, whatever feeling that there is, like underneath all of it. I try to let go and just stay with it. That way, it doesn't add up. It doesn't feel like a burden, but I still do feel that. It's like I still do feel
Yeah.
depressed. And yeah.
Well, I can share with you my experience. And so my experience actually up until fairly recently, for several months, I was experiencing what I'm sure would have been diagnosed as severe depression. I had no appetite. I had very poor, disturbed sleep, and I also didn't want to get out of bed. And so I understand. I mean, first of all, I do want to say that I would not encourage anybody to take what I say or what anyone else says to be the truth, or to use anything that anybody has to say as your own truth, but just to use it as something that reflects to you something that might be of value, that you can look for yourself and discover this is valuable for yourself. What I've found is that, so I'll use a metaphor because I think it's a useful metaphor. And I might have used this similar metaphor in another public meeting. I think it's a useful one though. So when insects go through a metamorphosis, or I think it's called metamorphosis, then we'll take a butterfly, a caterpillar. A caterpillar is a example that many of us know. So the caterpillar goes into becomes a chrysalis. So the caterpillar doesn't go into a cocoon. The caterpillar becomes the cocoon. The caterpillar becomes the chrysalis. And all of what was the caterpillar is gone. So as I was saying earlier, there's transition. Life is transition. The idea, I mean, we are all always in metamorphosis. Whatever we thought we were is gone. And there are times in our lives in which the transitions are bigger. So there never is a caterpillar, because what we call a caterpillar is transition. But then that transition from caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly, that's a big transition, a very big transition. And we, I think, make the mistake of believing that there's something here that is myself, that is a thing that is always consistent. But actually, if we tell the truth, we are in transition. We are transition. And there are times in our lives when that transition is very big. And my experience of it is that in that big transition, those big transition times, it's hugely creative. It's a big, big, big part of the creative process. So the caterpillar becomes the chrysalis, and then the chrysalis becomes the butterfly. Very creative. But in that chrysalis stage, there's this kind of hard shell, and inside everything's turned to goo. Then everything that seemed to have continuity is gone, and there's no sense of what is the chrysalis going to do. It's not going to go anywhere. And by the way, it's so my kids found a chrysalis, and I think they must have found it on the plant that was still living, but then I think they broke it off. They broke the plant, the stem of the plant, and then they used a thumbtack to stick that plant stem with the chrysalis hanging off of it onto the underside of some wood outside of our house, because they wanted to be able to watch it. And I felt anxious because I could perceive how vulnerable the chrysalis was, because the chrysalis can't move. So like me not having much of an appetite, not having an easy time sleeping, not wanting to get out of bed. Not what we think of as creativity, because we've been told and presented with the idea that the output is the creativity. That we've been told creativity looks like music, art, poetry. That's what we've been told creativity is. But where does that creativity come from? It comes from this transition, from thinking we know what we are, and then the disappearance of that. Then it's not here anymore. So the creativity is also that. The creativity is that, and then the output springs forth from that, like the butterfly coming forth from the chrysalis. So I've experienced similar things many times in my life, and in the past, when those things happened, it was depression, and it was bad, and it was horrible, and the end of the world. Because kind of is. It's the end of that world. Whatever was before, it's gone now. But like I'm saying, that's actually always the case. We're always in transition. It's always the end of the world. This right now is the end of the world. There is no, whatever that world was, it's gone. In fact, it never was. Because where is it now? It's gone. Can't find it. So if our okayness depends upon that, then we're left empty-handed and hopeless and desperate, because there's nothing. We have nothing. But my experience this time, although I wouldn't say that it was, I wouldn't say it was entirely pleasant. But again, what I was talking about earlier, recognizing the truth of trust and choosing that is a very different experience. Because then this idea of every moment is supposed to be the way that I think it's supposed to be, and I know what this means, and I know what this experience is called, and I know what it's leading to and what it came from, or I have to know what it is and what it means and where it came from and where it's going to. I've got to figure that out. All of that can sort of fall by the wayside, and there's this possibility of just being present to what is, in wonder. So, okay, this is interesting. I'm not sure what this is. It's not so pleasant necessarily, but I wonder. And having been through these things, this one of the benefits, I suppose, of age, maturity, is that we've been through these things before. We recognize that there are cycles in life. We recognize that, like, you know, we're not so dissimilar from everyone else. We're not so dissimilar from the insects. There's a wonderful, I think, a wonderful storyteller named J. O'Callahan. Look him up if you want. Who some friends of ours lent us these CDs with his stories on them. That we've listened to, and my children love them, and I love them. And one of the stories on one of those is, I think it's called Michael the Grasshopper, and he describes at the beginning of this the beginning of the story, and this isn't going to ruin anything for you or give it away. He's talking about Michael's mother, and it's fall, and she is looking for a place to lay her eggs, and she finds a place to lay her eggs, and she lays the eggs in the ground and hopes that they will survive. She's going to die. She's laid her eggs, she dies. And then when Michael is born, describes how, I think it says 6 times he goes through this metamorphosis where he has to break out of his old skin. And if he doesn't, he'll die. So I can only imagine that through the filter of what is this, and is this good, is this bad, that the experience of having to break out of this old skin and the sense of constriction, suffocation, and urgency could certainly be interpreted as being pretty bad. Certainly unpleasant could be a reasonable interpretation. But he goes through this 6 times. So I am led to believe this is probably true for grasshoppers, that they go through this metamorphosis 6 times. And so, as I say, we're always in metamorphosis, but there are these moments of more profound metamorphosis. And like the grasshopper, like the butterfly, like everyone, it's just part of the cycles of life. And to the positive expectation, if we view it through the old filter, the conditioned filter, then it's just, oh my God, why am I being tortured? Why is this happening to me? This is so unfair, so horrible. Not happening to them. It's just happening to me. And nobody's here to help me. I'm all alone. But there's this other possibility, which is to view it, as I'm suggesting, through positive expectation, not as another layer on top of the concept, but deeper than that, to drop into what it is that's holding all of this and allowing all of this and breathing this and living this. And then this wonder of, wow, like my children wondering with the chrysalis. It's so innocent, they get so excited. Me, I get so nervous. Don't touch the chrysalis. You're gonna kill it. But my experience, as I said, with this recent several months of metamorphosis was quite different from in the past. So there may be, who knows, many, many, many reasons for the experience that you might call depression. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know the causes of your experience and what you should do. So again, please don't take anything that I say as the truth, but just notice that you can just check it out for yourself and see what is true for you in your experience, and just see, is it true for you that you are in transition, that you are always in transition, that who you have imagined yourself to be is always gone, and that if you try to look into the future and get some kind of safety or security there, that you come up empty-handed, and that all that's available is this tender, vulnerable, innocent moment of wonder now. And perhaps that can open you to positive expectation. Perhaps that can just open you to trusting in that wonder. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't also take care of yourself in all the other ways that you can take care of yourself. So it doesn't have to be either or, but just in addition to whatever else you might do to support yourself, you could also just take a look and see, is it true that maybe I'm in metamorphosis? And can I just trust, like, how many billions of years there have been grasshoppers? So I could then view this through the filter of, oh my God, why is this happening to me? This is so horrible. It's the end of the world. Or I could notice, oh, life's been supporting grasshoppers in transition for billions of years. Maybe, possibly, life's got this one. And maybe I just don't know what's next because I haven't yet experienced it. And if I'm trying to filter everything through what I think I know from the past, I'm going to be awfully disappointed because what's next isn't going to be what was. What's next is what's next. The egg only knew the egg. So then if we're filtering what's next or what's now through what was, then we're just going to be disappointed. Oh my God, this is no good at all. All of that, all of what I knew myself to be, all of that protective shell, it's gone. How am I going to get it back? Got to fit back inside, got to glue it together. That's not going to work because you're in transition. You're not in the egg. You're not the egg. And you're not whatever you think you are now either, because that's also gone. And something I can just say to you personally is I do see your beauty consistently. And I know it can be challenging to trust in that when there's fear and when that doesn't consistently get reflected back, when others around us are in their shells, when they're reactive and fearful and not vulnerable. It can be hard to be open and vulnerable and to take those risks and to be yourself. But I do see your beauty.
Just wanted to let you know, fire alarms in my college gone off, so I had to relocate.
Yeah.
I kind of get the sense of it. Although I missed most of what you answered, I'll get back to the recording and hear back. But
the thing is also that whatever you needed to hear, you heard.
mm-hmm.
That's something I've been surprised to discover with technology, because so often there are things that happen like that. But consistently, I've found that what needs to be said and what needs to be heard, that's what gets said and what gets heard.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the sense of what you said. It's just that I'm vulnerable. I'm in this new place. I'm unshelling myself, if that's the word. I don't know. I've lived under the rug most of my life, and right now I'm here.
Yeah.
And every day is just opening myself up to so many things. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And your willingness to be yourself and to explore and share in this way and to be vulnerable here is a gift. You are a gift. You're a gift to me, and you're a gift to everyone here. It really is an inspiration. It's tremendous courage that many people can. Everybody here is receiving that.
I know I've asked this question like with the in the radical acceptance program days. I still remember it. The question about people, and now that I'm meeting so many people, it, I s- I seem to have I seem to have the need for a filter. Oh, and to analyze whom to be with, whom to contact, and that's and I what I realize is I don't seem to have the access for that. I don't know. I just don't know. Um, I just don't know what people are thinking, what they want from me, or whether it's going to be this is going to be a good idea to be with them or not.
Mhm.
But I'm just showing up no matter what they're thinking. I'm just like I'm there.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's pretty. Sometimes it gets to me. Oh, why should I do this? Because they don't really care, or
Mhm.
all these things happen. The instinctive thoughts do happen,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think just keep showing up no matter what?
I don't know. All I can tell you is my experience. I mean, I've got 3 kids, and it's kind of like that. Just keep showing up.
Mhm.
And I mean, not just my kids. All of my relationships. I have at present I've got some challenging feelings and a bit of conflict with a friend of mine over some things that are going on with our children. And it's like, what am I, it's just ongoing. It's just, this seems to be life. I don't ever find a place to land where I've arrived and this is it. And I know from here on out, it's going to be smooth sailing and everybody's going to like me and I'm going to know that they like me and we're never going to have any misunderstandings or conflicts. I'm going to be sure that this is the right place and great people. And there's nothing, this is absolutely the very best. And I've got it. I nailed it. I won.
Mhm.
Never get that.
But do you think sometimes we just know some people are not for us for some reason? I don't know.
They are when they are and they aren't when they aren't. I mean, that's the thing is whoever's that's the mind trying to figure it out. It wants to know, are these the right people? Am I in the right place, doing the right thing, investing my time and energy into the right things? And then my
Mhm.
experience of that is then I can leap from one thing to the next and one person to the next and one place to the next over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I don't seem to ever find the right place or person or thing where then I get the certainty that got it. This is it. This is the right thing, right place, right person. So instead, what I've found is that I can just inhabit the wonder of not knowing and the vulnerability of not knowing and just show up. So that's all it seems to actually be available is just to show up and be here. Just that's it. Not here in the right place, in the right way, with the right people, with the right ideas and the right attitudes, and being being my very best always and perfect. I don't get to have that. What I don't get to have anything. All that I get is just to show up.
Yeah, but sometimes I do have ideas about I'm not going to be with those people ever, and I
Yeah.
don't usually.
Well, there are some people I mean, there are I don't know how many, there's many billions of people on this planet. In this lifetime, you're not going to meet most of them. So there's some truth to, you're not going to be with everybody. Not going to
No,
happen.
it's not that. I'm just saying, like, if I have some experiences, let's say negative experiences with them, I just don't hang around with them anymore. I just try to distance away.
That's one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can just, you want to find, is that the right way? You want certainty to know that that's the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't know how to know that that's the right way. There's just whatever is happening. You just get to find out. And through that experience, you get to discover.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why I'm saying this positive expectation and wonder is more truthful, because that's what's happening. I don't know anybody who can tell me for sure that they've got it all right and that it's locked down, absolute perfect security forever. I don't know that. I don't know anybody who could tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we keep looking for that.
Yeah. To be honest, I stopped looking for it. I was just curious about it, though. I was like, oh, never mind. I'm not gonna analyze my days and nights about what needs to be done. What's just exhausting.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
It is very exhausting. Yeah. I have one more question about labels. Have you heard of non-binary? Like people who
Gender.
identify as non-binary? Yeah, gender.
Yeah.
So I'm in this community right now, LGBT community. I go out to meet up with people where people identify with lots of labels. And at first I was like confused because I've never heard anything like it. And it was pretty confusing. And I didn't know what to make of it as at beginning, but being around with those people for a bit, were like, I don't care, like no matter who you are, because I valued people and I valued their connection more so than the label. And I feel now like I completely accept, okay, no, I don't care. But there's still this stigma around that. There's this like, there's just male or female. Like, how can you go beyond that? Like, away from it.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of that?
Well, what I would say about that is that you could notice what it is that you're actually looking for, what you actually desire, and then you could just trust that. Because you can see that in the mind, there's this seeking for, again, something that you can know with certainty of some kind. What's right, what's good, what's true. And then based on that, it's separating. So you want to know, should I be non-binary? Should I be binary? Should I be with people who are non-binary, or should I not be with people who are non-binary? Should I like that, or should I not like that? Is that good or is that bad? Is that right or is that wrong? And then it's all, if you look more deeply than that, what is it that you actually want? Because I would say that what you want, and I can say this with a fair degree of confidence, what you want has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with binary or non-binary or any of that. What you actually want is something that doesn't have a name or a label. And so then trying to get to it through a group or an identity or a non-identity or any of this, and I'm saying this not to say that any of that is good or bad or right or wrong. I don't know. But just to say that what I believe, based on my experience, based on communicating with so many people now, that what you actually want is not going to be found through this kind of separatist thinking. Because then you've got binary and then non-binary. But non-binary is now binary because there's binary and non-binary. And then you want to you say what's beyond, what's, because then we're always looking. We think that to transcend is we gotta constantly move to something beyond or bigger or greater. And all of that it's seeking, because there's this idea that you, just as you are, not knowing, is somehow not enough.
Yep. By the way, I have a crush on a non-binary person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life is complicated.
So that's what's up, and I know. And they don't seem to respond well enough, and I really have to use they them pronouns, by the way. So that's the case, and I seem to have a really good connection in real life, but when it comes to text, like they don't respond or they don't really do much. So again, the analysis mind. Should I be with this person or not be with this person? What's going on?
The thing is, when you're with the person, you're with the person. When you're not with the person, you're not with the person. So it can be simple. It doesn't need to be. It's complex and it's simple. You get to choose, and the simplicity I find is much. It's simpler. So if you have a preference for simpler, then you can choose the simpler, which is just like I said. When you are with the person, you're with the person, and when you're not with the person, you're not with the person. When this is happening, this is happening. When this is not happening, this is not happening. When there's obsessive thinking, there's obsessive thinking. When there's not obsessive thinking, there's not obsessive thinking. When there's good feelings, there's good feelings. And when there's not good feelings, there's not good feelings. But we can chase after, or we can say when there's depression, there's depression. When there's not depression, there's not depression. But you see how we're always chasing after something or running away from something. And it doesn't satisfy us. So then you can, again, like I said earlier, we have this idea that there's some kernel of truth in that desire is suffering, and we get confirmation of that in life. Desire is suffering, desire is suffering, desire is suffering. But I'm suggesting that that's not actually the whole truth. That what's more true is that the seed of the desire is trustworthy. So if you go to the seed of the desire, you can trust that all the way. The seed of the desire is connection. So then where can you find connection? Are you going to find connection tomorrow? Are you going to find connection in the next text? Are you going to find connection with the right person? Are you going to find connection when you do the right thing so that you can then love yourself? Or can you just actually find where connection is, which is now? Because if you're chasing after connection, then kind of have to start to tell the truth about it, which is that what you're actually doing is affirming that this right now is not connection. Connection is not here, it's somewhere else. I got to chase after it. Then connection is always off in the future. But if you tell the deeper truth in your direct experience, then you recognize what I want is connection, and I want connection now. I don't want connection later. So where is connection found now? And then you can discover where the connection is now. And it's actually very simple. It's very close and very intimate. It's not found somewhere else. It's found here and now. And it's not found through circumstances. It's not found, not that it cannot be expressed in those things or discovered in those things, but it's not defined by those things. Connection is here now. Just notice that right now there is connection. It's your most intimate experience. Just connection. Not connection of you with something else. Not a connection of your idea of your identity and some other identity, but just connection. Just notice that in your direct experience, in all ways, visually, auditorily, sensorially, in all ways, there's connection. All connection. Your direct experience is connection. There's never a moment in which there's not connection. You're never disconnected. So you can just keep trusting, because that's real. That doesn't get taken away. That's not something that comes and goes. Every time you check, not as an idea, but in direct experience, there's connection, because where do you find, other than in a concept, anything other than connection?
Are you talking about the non-dual awareness?
Well, if you want to call it
connection.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, yes, you could call it that, and that might be truthful. But what I'm saying is, doesn't even need to have that label, because then that can becomes a thing, something that you discovered in the past and that you need to get back to, or something that's not quite the same as what this is now, and then you have to try to fit this into that. But I'm just saying, if you just are willing to be innocent and vulnerable, just like a child for a moment, you can just notice, and we can even take the label connection off of it, but just what you're actually seeking for. Not the idea of what you're seeking for, but what you actually want. We could call it aliveness. We could call it wholeness. And isn't that obvious if you just take the labels off for a moment?
Yeah. So the questions I have for now.
Thank you.
All right.
So I don't know actually anymore what long or short is, but I'll call it a little bit long, but I'm happy to continue to be here for a little while longer if anybody else has anything that they would like to share, or
I have something brief
Yeah.
to share. Uh, it seems like since these webinars have been going on, and passage of time as well, but uh, I think, as I recall, the way I discovered you was through your Kindle books.
Mhm.
And something the other day led me to go back and look into these books. Pardon me. One's just as a suggestion. The title was "The Best Thing That Never Happened,"
Mhm.
and so I had that stored on my Kindle for years, actually,
Mhm.
and I was just laying in bed, and I just, for some reason, went back to that book and opened it up, and yeah, I was just amazed at at how how fantastic that little teeny tiny book is. It just, I mean, it's so it's absolutely dense with possibilities.
Mm.
And so I would certainly recommend uh, any of those books to for anyone to look at again, or to review, or to pass on to somebody else as an introduction.
Mm.
Because I mean, it's some of the finest writing I've ever read,
Wow. Well,
as
that's
far as I'm concerned. I mean that.
it's the
And
only one of my books that was professionally edited.
oh, really?
Yeah. That one was actually published through a proper publisher.
Ah, okay. Um, and then the next thing, I don't know if you, Joey, know or have ever heard of the person Edward Carpenter.
Does not ring a bell.
Okay, well, uh, essentially, Edward Carpenter was England's Walt Whitman.
Hmm.
There's a lot about both of those men that are similar, but they are unique unto themselves, for sure. Carpenter was born in 1844 and died in 1929. And he wrote, I did send you links to all this to Joey at joeylott.com.
Hmm. Recently or in the past?
Just today.
Okay.
And so you can vet his work if you want before sharing it. But his most famous title is Towards Democracy.
Hmm.
And that may sound political, and I suppose in some ways it is, but it's kind of a poem essay.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that it's right on point with everything that we talk about.
Hmm.
And it's just a lovely thing to read. I mean, and it just goes on and on and on forever. You know, the thing is like 500 pages of this incredible poem, and it's inspiring. It's absolutely on target with the kinds of things that we talk about all the time. I think, and and the other thing was that the sort of the best Kindle renditions of it are available now. It didn't used to be as available as it has been just recently. So that's about all I had to say. Just
Okay. Well, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, yeah, I had the similar experience as Uncle Wiggly with the book No One Home.
Mm.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And so when I opened up that book, which I did probably a year after I read it, it's like I felt like I never read it before. It's
Yes.
like wait, I don't even remember reading this. This is incredible. It turned my whole world upside down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like, after 2 essays, I'm like, oh, should I keep reading? And I'm trying to figure out, like, are these ideas that he wrote down consistent with what he's trying to teach now? And so I never really came up with an answer to that, because I'm like, does it really have to? Is it necessary for what he wrote in 2015 to resonate with what he's saying now? Because in the end, the dial is still pointing towards yourself. You're still looking at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, thank you for sharing that as well. I just wanted to bring that up too.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, everybody. I truly appreciate your presence here. It really does matter. You're not just a spectator. We're really all in this together. See you next time.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Joey.
Joey. Thank you.